It's time again for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the show covering fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation and destinations right here in the region you live and play in. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, makers of the world-famous wedding ring spinner, by Loophole, America's Optics Authority, and by Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter. Northwestern Outdoors is also sponsored by Wallowa County in Northeast Oregon, where you'll find both nature and fun. By Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing, offering you the affordable Canadian fishing trip of a lifetime. And by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors. So grab your fishing rod or hunting gear, load up the boat or lace up your boots, and let's head outdoors with your host, John Cruz.
As you may recall from last week's broadcast, I got to spend some time in Billings, Montana at the Outdoor Writers Association of America's annual conference. It was a great experience, and one of those things that happened there was a night where the writers, photographers, videographers, and broadcasters got to see who won the Excellence in Craft Awards. Now, this is a contest where all of us enter what we consider to be our best work from the last year. There were over 700 entries received in various categories, and I was quite honored to receive 2 second-place Excellence in Craft Awards for segments that aired on this show, Northwestern Outdoors Radio. One of them was a fascinating interview I did last year with Bill Hanlon. Bill is a mild-mannered school teacher and hardcore sheep hunter who found something entirely unexpected on not one, but 2 hunts into the wilderness near the borders of British Columbia and the Yukon Territory. We'll be sharing that segment called Hunting the 500-Year-Old Man with you in just a few minutes. Another segment we'll share with you is the award-winning interview we did with Anita Melton. She's with JB Rail Riders in Joseph, Oregon. I recorded this piece as the two of us pedaled modified rail cars down the railroad tracks through some very scenic country in Wallowa County, Oregon. It was a really unique adventure you'll not only want to hear about, but try yourself. Something else I got to experience at this conference was a fascinating session with Jennifer Jarrett, who records the sounds of nature and builds podcasts and radio programs around them. Her laboratory? Yellowstone National Park. We'll be talking to Jennifer during this broadcast and sharing some of the incredible sounds she's recorded in Yellowstone with you. We've got some really fabulous audio to share, as well as quite an interesting story from Jennifer about how she goes about her work there in the park, and I promise you, you are not going to want to miss this. What else do we have on tap? Lance Mers is back for an extended Max Minute, and he's got the perfect lure for all of you trolling the mouth of the Columbia River or the Pacific Ocean for salmon with herring and anchovies. We'll also tell you about the 2016 Eastman's Deer Tour and 2 Sportsman's Warehouse stores it will be visiting in the Northwest in the coming weeks. Throw in our Sportsman's Warehouse Trivia Question of the Week and your chance to win a $25 gift card. And we've truly got an award-winning show coming your way. But in the tradition of sharing some really good audio on this broadcast, we've got to start off with Matt Rice and Josh Mills, because they've got some info about a great conservation organization advocating for sportsmen's access and preservation of public lands right here in the western United States. It's coming up right now on this week's edition of Sportsman Spotlight.
This is Sportsman Spotlight with Matt and Tom.
Do you understand how lucky we are to have access to public lands, hunt and fish? It's a true gift. Here's avid fisherman Josh Mills with a way you can give back.
One of my favorite conservation organizations out there is the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, and they do a tremendous job with their like-minded partners in promoting public access for sportsmen and women across the country, especially in the West. And right now they're running a pretty cool contest across their social media platforms, being Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, that they want you to share your favorite public lands pictures, whether you're out hunting, fishing, hiking, something like that. So you've used the hashtag So Public Lands Proud in your social media, you've got a pretty good chance to be in their contest. The contest itself runs through November 14th. So like I said, I've got a picture of myself fishing with my father on the Snake River in January in the middle of a gigantic piece of federal land. I tagged it Public Lands Proud, and it's part of the contest because everybody's getting behind the fact that we need public access to enjoy our sport, whether it be hunting, fishing, hiking, whatever it may be. Maybe you can go to sportsmansaccess.org/publiclandsproud, and you can learn more about that. But again, the website is sportsmansaccess.org, and take a look at the Public Lands Proud photo contest.
Thanks, Josh. Efforts like this ensure their kids will always have access to the outdoors.
That was Sportsman Spotlight.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, hard-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
At Loophole Optics, they guarantee performance. Those other optics companies, they just warranty failure. That's why every Loophole product has a lifetime guarantee. Think of it as a warranty you'll never need to cash in on. Find out more at loophole.com.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after. Whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We've got an incredible story to share with you today. We're talking to Bill Hanlon. He is the chairman for the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers in British Columbia. He also is a former high school teacher, and in 1999, he went hunting for Dall sheep, but he found not just a beautiful ram, he found something absolutely incredible. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, John.
Bill, why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit about this hunt for Dall sheep that turned into the discovery of a 500-year-old man. How did this start off?
Dall sheep hunting in British Columbia is a limited entry hunt, so you have to apply and basically win a lottery to get the opportunity to hunt Dall sheep. There are only 2 Dall sheep populations in the province, and one is in the Tatshenshini-Alsac Provincial Park. It is in the very northwest corner of British Columbia. British Columbia is a huge province, so it's a very rugged, wild environment. The Tatshenshini-Alsac Provincial Park is part of the largest protected area in the world. It's an internationally protected area, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, combined with the Wrangell St. Elias and Glacier Bay National Parks in Alaska, the Kluane National Park in Yukon, and the Tatshenshini-Alsac in British Columbia. It's 21 million acres.
So you're up here, you're trekking in. How many days did you have to trek in, and how many kilometers did you cover before you got to the place where you made this discovery?
We had enough provisions for 10 days of backpack hunting, and we were approximately 55 kilometers into the backcountry, came upon an ice patch. We were on the margin of a glacier, and we noticed something out of the ordinary, something that didn't belong there to our eyes.
And what was that exactly?
We started picking up sticks, and I mean, it's a rock and ice environment, and so we noticed, and the first thing we said was to my hunting partners, "Hey Mike, hey Warren, we're not the first people that have been here. Look at this, here's a stick." And it stuck out of the ordinary. We noticed it right away. A couple of minutes later, Mike picked up another stick and said, "Hey Bill, these fit together, that one you had. Yeah, there's something coincidental about these." Walked a little further, and he picked up a third stick, and then it kind of clicked in his mind that these aren't sticks, these are artifacts. We're starting to find something here that's unique. Warren, in the meantime, our third hunting partner, was walking along this wall of ice, and about 20 feet above him, he's looking through his binoculars, and he says to Mike and I, "Hey guys, I think I found the poor fella who lost all this stuff." And he was looking up on the edge of the ice, and he noticed a smudge. So I climbed up on the glacier, and looking down on, it looked like a hide of some sort, but it actually turned out to be a gopher skin robe. And then I looked around a little further, and there's actually human remains were just emerging from the glacier, and the man's pelvis was just emerging from the ice. And there was a few other artifacts. There was a small tool, like a knife in a sheath. There was a woven spruce root hat. There was a few other things that were there, so his belongings were there as well.
So you find all of this, and you found something that's, well, you don't know actually at this point whether it's ancient or not so ancient. All you know at this point is you found a body. What happens next?
We were a couple days hike still from the highway. We still had another day or so to hunt, so we had a lot of these questions weighing heavily on our minds. We didn't know what it was. We knew that it was old, but we were definitely not any experts in the matter. But we didn't disturb it. We just we took a few pictures. We brought out a few of the artifacts that we knew we couldn't damage. We put them in Ziploc bags and made sure that they were packed safely and carefully. And then it took us a couple days to get to the truck. And then once we got back to the truck, we were able to get into Whitehorse and report our findings to the authorities, more for our own curiosity to say, hey, we found this, and what's it mean?
You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Bill Hanlon. He's a man who in 1999 went hunting for Dall sheep and instead found the remains of a 500-year-old man. So, Bill, you turned this in, and I understand the First Nations and government authorities went back to this glacier and they basically recovered what you found in terms of the body.
Yes, that's right. They recovered the complete human remains. There was a few pieces missing. His right arm, his lower right leg, and his head was missing, but they exhumed his upper torso. It had been, separated by the glacier shifting over the centuries, so it was in pieces, but they were able to recover the majority of his remains, and it's the oldest organically preserved human remains ever found in the Americas. One of only 2 glacier mummies ever found in the world. The other being the more popular Ötzi, which is the Austrian-Italian Iceman found in the Alps, I think in the early 90s, 10 years prior to Quadidon-Sinchi.
Tell me a little bit more about this man that was found. And I guess we'll start off with what he had. What sort of tools did he have? What was he wearing? And why was this so impressive?
Once the scientists had an opportunity to do a DNA study to identify that he was actually a First Nations, he was an Aboriginal, they were able to curate his artifacts and identify what his artifacts were and what he was carrying. And it turned out to be his Arctic ground squirrel robe. It was 95 Arctic ground squirrels sewn together into a robe. It was sewn together with mountain goat and blue whale sinew. It had moose hide patches. It had a moose hide collar. It was the high-tech clothing of the day. That's what they were known to wear and carry up with them for their clothing, for their sleeping, etc.
And when we're talking back in the day, we're literally talking the 1400s before Christopher Columbus came here.
Definitely before any contact with European culture. So he was uncontaminated by modern culture as you could be, living totally off the land. Everything he was carrying was made by him or somebody that loved him or that was in his community. He was carrying a 13-foot salmon gaffing tool. All those sticks we had been picking up, all joined together eventually to become a 13-foot salmon gaffing tool. A woven spruce root hat. He had a man tool, which was called. It came out of a beaver hide sheath. It had a little microchip of metal, and there was only 2 sources of metal in those days. It was either meteoric or it floated ashore like a nail in a board from Asia.
Fascinating stuff. So the head wasn't found. The First Nations basically, after examining the remains, along with government officials after a year, they basically cremated what they had and they put it back near the glacier again. But I understand you went back to the glacier. When did that happen, and what did you find the second time you went back for another Dall sheep hunt?
Well, 1999 was the original discovery. Between 1999 and 2003, there was a lot of activity in that area with First Nations research, scientific research. They exhumed the body, been going back looking for other artifacts and seeing what was melting out of this rapidly melting ice patch. And we wanted to go back and hunt again, but again, being limited entry hunting, we weren't sure how many years it was going to take us to draw a tag, so we applied, and lo and behold, we draw right away. We draw in 2003. So a lot of this, the science had been going on. It had kind of quieted down. Scientists had gone their ways to do their research, and we wanted to go back and pay our last respects. They had returned Quadidon-Sinchi's ashes to the same glacier that they removed him from. So we wanted to say our last respects and continue hunting. We were just getting into the best of the best sheep habitat, the wildest country, and so we wanted to do that.
So you get back to the glacier, and what do you find this time?
So we're basically at the same point where we started picking up sticks. 20 feet of ice had melted over the past 4 years. The climate had really warmed up there. We were experiencing warm summer after warm summer. And we were walking along the margin of the glacier, what was left of it. I kind of walked up on this berm of ice and I said, "Hey, Mike, there's the head." And 4 years later, the same 2 hunters, 55 kilometers in from nowhere, discover the missing remains of the discovery we made 4 years prior.
So you reported this, the head is recovered, this is also examined, and over the course of a 10-year period, government officials and First Nations are able to determine a lot about this young man whose body you found. I mean, what's the basics of what was learned about him?
I call it CSI Tachinsini. because the science that was utilized to research his artifacts, his remains, his molecular structure, his stomach contents, his pollen dating of the pollen on his clothing, it indicated that he was on that glacier in late August, that he was traveling from the coast inland, not vice versa. He was a man of status. He was wearing the contemporary clothing and gear of the day. He was either, they don't know why he was traveling there. He was hunting, that's my theory. He was traveling between communities. He was on a trade route. They're still speculating on why he was there. The speculation on why he perished was he got caught in a late season storm. There was zero pre-death trauma, zero post-mortem decay. He was buried and frozen immediately. They've determined him to be a 5'7" tall man between 18 and 22 in perfect health, 18-inch long black hair, no braids, traveling on those glaciers in bare feet. And they determined him to be a Tlingit Indian through a community DNA study where they found 17 living descendants of him 20 generations later.
And I understand you got to shake the hands of some of those descendants.
I got to shake the hands of some of his direct descendants, and we had the spine tingling occur when we made the discovery, and it occurred again when we were shaking hands with his relatives.
Incredible story. That's Bill Hanlon from Sparwood, British Columbia, sharing what a hunter sometimes finds when he goes hunting in the backcountry. Bill, thanks for sharing this with us on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thanks very much for the opportunity, John.
You're back with more of the great outdoors on Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
It's that time again. That's right. It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on.
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again, Lance Mers. Lance, a lot of people have got salmon on the brain, whether they're fishing in places like Tillamook Bay or fishing the Columbia River, and a lot of them are trolling herring as well. Any lures in particular that Max Lure might have to help them out?
John, we got the Smile Blade herring rig, and it's kind of unique because we got a 4-aught hook and a 3-aught hook, but it's on a bobber stop, so you can slide these hooks to fit the herring itself. And then right below the Smile Blade, we've got a bobber stop, so you can actually move the Smile Blade so it doesn't affect the spin or the action of that herring.
So you can use different sizes of herring. So let me throw something else at you. A lot of folks like to use anchovies for bait. Will the herring rig work for anchovies as well?
Absolutely. The top hook has actually got an egg loop snell, so you could actually tie that in and fit it to the size of that anchovy. Herring and anchovy are pretty much the same size, so there's no doubt that this will work for that.
All right, so whether you're going to be trolling a big herring or whether you're going to be trolling a smaller herring or an anchovy, the Max Herring Rig may be for you. The added flash you're going to get from that Smile Blade is definitely going to draw some more strikes. Look for it at a sporting goods store near you or online at maxlure.com. Hot summer nights mean hot morning fishing for sockeye here in the Northwest, and Max Lure Company has got what you need to catch a limit with the Double D Dodger and 2 great sockeye rigs. The Double D Dodger has a unique fast, slow action and can be fished away from the boat without a side planer. The Cha-Cha Sockeye Rig and Double Whammy Sockeye Pro both feature a patented Smile Blade and 2 stout red hooks that won't let go of that salmon when it bites. Max Lure Company, getting you into the sockeye this summer.
You demand quality performance from your binoculars, whether you use them in the field, on the water, or at a stadium. But you don't want to spend a fortune. That's where the BX Mackenzie binoculars from Leupold come in. These armored, waterproof binoculars are both comfortable and dependable. Look for your Mackenzie binoculars at quality sporting goods retailers near you, to include your Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, or Northwest Bi-Mart stores. BX Mackenzie, bringing your world into sharper focus, only from Leupold.
The road is calling you to experience one of Oregon's 7 wonders, the Wallowas. So grab your camping equipment and fishing gear and head out to Northeast Oregon, where you'll find the views are endless, the air crisp and clean, and the water's cold and clear. Set up camp by the shores of Wallowa Lake or in the heart of the Wallowa-Whitman National Forest. Take your fishing gear and cast your bait into the deep waters of Wallowa Lake, or roll your fly into one of the eddies of the many freestone creeks and rivers teeming with fish. This summer, take the road that leads to wonders. It begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
Want to earn a serious reward? You can, and all you need is a fishing rod. There's money to be made catching northern pike minnow. There's too many of them in the Columbia and Snake Rivers, and we'll pay you cash to catch them. Pike minnow eat our salmon and steelhead, and that's no good. The season starts May 1st, runs through September, and the more fish you catch, the more you earn. How much money can you make from this program? Well, last year, one angler earned a cool $100,000. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org. Go ahead, collect your reward.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're broadcasting from a little slice of paradise in Wallowa County today. I'm actually riding the rails with my new friend, Anita Metlin. She's one of the co-owners of the Joseph Branch Rail Riders, and we have been pedaling along the Joseph Branch rail line between Joseph and Enterprise here in Northeast Oregon. Anita, this has been a ton of fun. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
Anita, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit more about this experience? These are kind of like, I don't know, railroad hand cars, but we're pedaling along the rails instead.
Yes, so it is similar to a rail car in that it has 4 wheels, but we have a very light aluminum frame, so this unit weighs about 100 pounds. We have a semi-recumbent type situation between the pedaling and the seat so that you pedal at your leisure down the railroad and enjoy the outdoors.
Well, and talking about enjoying the outdoors, we've actually just stopped for a moment to record this, but let me describe where we're at. Blue skies, 75 degrees, snow-capped Wallowa Mountains in front of us. Below that, we've got forests, we've got a meadow where just a second ago a white-tailed deer was bounding across. Right behind me, you can probably hear a magpie chirping, and we've even got some mules in the pasture too. It is just absolutely gorgeous, and this whole trip from Joseph to Enterprise, 6 miles down, and now we're on the back trip, it's been full of wonderful sights. We've seen a lot of birds, got to see some Bohemian waxwings, which are really classy birds, got to see some ducks, the magpies that I mentioned. Hawks have been common around here. Saw an osprey nest, no ospreys though, and of course lots of deer. You got both mule deer and white-tailed deer. What other animals do you see out here?
You might see some elk once in a while. And livestock, we have quite a variety of livestock, which is a treat for those people from the metropolitan area. So we've had such things as horses and cows and mules and sheep and a llama.
There you go. So let's tell people a little bit about how this came about. This is a fairly new business where basically people hop on these pedal cars and pedal up and down the rail lines in this beautiful setting. Starts in Joseph, Oregon. Tell me a little bit about this company, the Joseph Branch Rail Riders.
My husband had an interest in creating some kind of a little device that he could ride on a unused portion of the rail line. He did a little research on the internet and found a solution to his dreams that would work, and that was the beginning.
So today you actually have these carts, and each one carries 2 people, and you can go in groups of up to 20 people at a time, but a lot of times it's just going to be like today where there's a couple in front of us and then there's you and I that are pedaling along behind them, and you can go at your own pace, but basically it takes about 2 hours to go down to Enterprise, turn around and come back to where you started. Not too hard, slight downhill, like a 1.5% grade down, and get a little bit of a workout on the way back, but geez, this is just an incredible experience and very unique. Is anybody else offering this in the Northwest or even the Western United States?
Not that we are aware of. We have an agreement with the rail owners, and they have agreed that we can do this, and I think it's very unique to the Northwest and even to the United States.
How did this happen? Tell me a little bit about this rail line here. Obviously, it's not used by any train companies anymore, but obviously it was at one time.
So this line was originally put in about the 1900s. There's a spur line that would go from La Grande to Joseph, and they did that over a series of years, and they used it for commercial uses, hauling timber and lumber and grain. There was a passenger service for a while, and eventually all those different legs of economy kind of closed down, and now this line is sitting here not being used, except for one end does have the Eagle Cup excursion train on it.
So it fell into disuse, and I understand it was turned over to Wallowa County. Is that correct?
The owners of the rail line wanted to sell, and Wallowa County and Union County decided that they wanted to buy it in order to preserve the line, with the hope that at some point there would be a commercial resurgence for uses of this rail line.
Well, obviously, that never happened. However, you came along and you convinced the counties that this would be a great, well, for lack of a better word, tourist attraction.
Well, yes. Here we are. Union and Wallowa County talked about someday there would be a commercial venture, and I guess it's us right now.
But what a unique commercial venture indeed, where again, you get to take in incredible views, get to go ahead and see and hear the livestock, see and hear the wildlife, and get some exercise along the way. And it's so remote. You're really not seeing anybody at all out here. I love that aspect of it too. And this is just the short version. You offer this, 3 times a day?
Yes, 3 times a day from Joseph to Enterprise, and we depart at 9 and noon and 3 o'clock, and we can take up to 20 people at a time, so it works out great for family outings or special occasions.
And the other really nice part about this, folks, it only costs you $20. So you get a 2-hour excursion for $20 you're going to remember for a long time. And like I said, get a little bit of a workout too. Again, folks, you're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're riding the rails with the Joseph Branch Rail Riders today in Wallowa County. And we're talking to one of the co-owners, Anita Metlin. And Anita, this is the short ride, but you've got an all-day ride too. Tell me about that one.
This option is just new this year, and we gather in Minham at 9 a.m. and we're back by 4, but we pedal from Minham to Wallowa. You travel along the Wallowa River, and then you travel into the lower part of the Wallowa Valley, and then we take a break in the little town of Wallowa where you can go into town and either buy a coffee, buy some lunch, go look at the antique shop, and then we head back to Minham. And along the way, you're more in the canyon, you're seeing wildlife, you're seeing wildflowers. I actually saw a beaver yesterday when I went, and little lady slippers, which were very beautiful.
The flowers are pretty nice up here in your Enterprise, too. The first poppies are starting to bloom. There's lots of buttercups that are out here blooming already. And again, it's just a beautiful time of year to be here in Northeast Oregon. Let's talk about the mileage on this longer trip. How many miles are you covering on that one?
Round trip, it is 26 miles, and the grade is actually a little more gentle than option 1, which is from Joseph. So the average grade difference is a little less than 1%.
That makes for a wonderful, I was going to say bike ride, but I'll say pedal cart excursion in this case along the rails. I'd imagine most of your guests do get lunch in Wallowa. What's their favorite place to go, and what's their favorite dish?
Well, I think that several of us have been to the Blonde Strawberry, but the Little Bear also has wonderful hamburgers, and the Blonde Strawberry has all kinds of espresso offerings and cappuccino, and even a few scones.
And the great thing, folks, is you can be completely guilt-free because you're going to work it all off on the way back. What other things should people know about this incredible excursion that you're offering here in Northeast Oregon?
Well, it's a very unique experience, and it's something that anybody who has any kind of nostalgia for the railroad will enjoy, because you will be traveling the rails as opposed to the roads. And if you love the outdoors, great opportunity to come out here and just enjoy the fresh air and the green and the mountains and the rushing rivers. And if you like birds and wildlife, there's plenty to observe and enjoy. And it's one of those unique experiences you shouldn't miss.
Unique experience indeed. I can't recommend it highly enough. Again, we have so many unique things to do outdoors here in the Northwest, but this is one you've got to put on your list. The other thing of note is that you don't have to be in great shape to do this. Just about anybody of any physical ability can go ahead and do, especially the Joseph to Enterprise trip. And that's because A, it's not that hard to do, but B, if it is a little tough for you, you've got a little motor assist, don't you?
Yes, we have one of our units has a Honda motor on it. That way we are able to take larger groups, and so when you have a 3-generation family grouping that comes and grandma and grandpa are needing a little assistance, they can actually ride with the rail rider, or we can push them. So we can push a few units back. We can't push everyone back, but that does allow a broader spectrum of people who can come and enjoy.
So the Joseph to Enterprise trip, that's only $20, great bargain. How much is this 6-hour, 26-mile trip from Minham to Wallowa and back?
That's $45 a person, and it's an all-day adventure, so it's worth the money because it's just so peaceful and scenic and worth doing.
Oh, that is an understatement of a year. $45 for a full day of time on the rails, or even $20 for a couple hours. This is a great bargain, folks. Anita, we are running out of time, but before we go, we definitely want to give people a phone number and a website so they can book their own excursion. And folks, you need to go ahead and reserve in advance because this is getting more and more popular. What is the website?
jbrailriders.com.
That's JB Rail Riders for Joseph Branch Rail Riders, jbrailriders.com, and let's give out a phone number too.
541-910-0089, or contact me by email, which is jbrailriders@gmail.com.
And I'm going to have you repeat that one more time.
541-910-0089, or by email, jbrailriders@gmail.com.
And the website again, folks, is jbrailriders.com. That's the Joseph Branch Rail Riders. If you're looking for something unique, want a little exercise, do some pedaling in an incredible vista and setting, this is for you, and it's right here in Wallowa County, Northeast Oregon. Anita, thanks for the experience. I've loved every minute of it.
Well, thank you very much.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We've got a real treat for you today. I got the opportunity to meet Jennifer Jarrett. She's with the Acoustic Atlas in Yellowstone National Park, and she was at the Outdoor Writers Association of America Conference in Billings talking about recording sounds at Yellowstone National Park, sounds of nature, and then incorporating those into podcasts. Fascinating stuff. I'm going to play you a sample right here so you get a feeling of exactly what I'm talking about.
When I say top predator of Yellowstone, what's the first thing that pops into your mind? Well, Vincent Spagnuolo has another idea.
They're basically the wolves of the aquatic ecosystem here.
Vincent is a loon biologist with BRI, the Biodiversity Research Institute. He heads up BRI's Common Loon Project in Yellowstone National Park.
They are top predators, and they own that lake.
But in spite of their top predator status, Yellowstone's loons are in trouble. There are only about a dozen breeding pairs left in the park, and they're really isolated. The closest other loons are more than 200 miles away.
Jennifer, that was great stuff. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much, John. Thanks for having me.
So, Jennifer, this is really unique what you do here, and I guess we'll start off with, the sounds of nature themselves. This is obviously the centerpiece, and the rest of the podcast is built around it. You also have these audio postcards that are available on the Yellowstone National Park website for people to use, too. How do you go about recording these sounds of nature?
Well, I guess it depends on the time of year and what exactly I'm planning to record. But generally, if it's a species recording, meaning I'm going to be recording birds or mammals, I get up pretty early because that's when those critters tend to be most active, and kind of pack up all my gear and head out in the kind of twilight and head to my recording site and set up and sit or stand very, very quietly. And I do a lot of waiting.
So let's talk about the wolves and the loons that were in this last passage that we just played for our audience. Where were those recorded? What was the story behind those two?
So for the loons, there were a couple different techniques I used to record the loons. Obviously, some of the loon calls that you heard in that piece were recorded while I was up at Wolf Lake with the researchers during the capture attempt. And just before the scientists kind of got going with the work that evening, I deployed a remote recorder, and so I basically cam strapped that to a tree and then left it there for a couple of weeks and went back to retrieve it. And so some of the sounds are also from that remote recorder. So that was just for the loons. The wolf howl in the piece that you heard, that howl was recorded in the Lamar Valley, right from the road. And
wow.
That was just a really unique recording experience. The wolves were fairly close. I mean, the mics are very sensitive, and so they kind of have a long reach, so we weren't, right on top of the wolves, but they were pretty close, which doesn't happen all the time. A lot of the times when you're looking for wolves, you end up watching them through a spotting scope, and they're, maybe a mile or two away. But these animals were pretty close, and I just got really, really lucky. I basically stepped out of the car, and I heard howls, and I happened to have the mic with me and set it up, and so one of the wolves was from that recording.
And some of the sounds that you have are not necessarily animal sounds, but they're sounds of nature. You played some sounds, geothermal sounds for lack of a better word, and goodness knows there's lots of that at Yellowstone National Park.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that has kind of surprised me about this work. I've kind of always been an animal lover and was really interested in capturing the sounds of birds and mammals. But once I started to do the recordings of the thermal features, I really got hooked. I mean, they're so amazing, and each one is completely different. You kind of think, oh, a geyser is a geyser is a geyser, but they all kind of have their own personality. They all kind of have their own sound signature, and it's just been really, really fun.
This is amazing. Folks, you're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Jennifer Jarrett, and unfortunately, they're doing construction right outside her office. So if you hear some background noise, that's what you're hearing here. But the sounds that we're really telling you about are not the construction noises. It's the sounds of Yellowstone National Park in terms of nature, both animals and birds, and also some of the environment itself, like the geothermal features we just talked about.
This sort of leads me to think of one of the bigger components of the work that I do, or why it's important, is we live in this world where we have an abundance of anthropogenic or human-caused noise.
Yes.
And I think we get really used to it, especially for those of us who either grew up in or are living in an urban situation, and we forget just how intrusive those kinds of sounds can be with respect to our natural soundscape. So there was a great example of that.
That is a great example of that. All right, let's get back to these remote audio devices. When you were at the conference and you played something incredible, you had one of these set up near a dead bison, and you actually picked up the sounds of two grizzly bears fighting over the spoils. And speaking of that audio, we've actually got a clip of it for you right here. What are some of the other memorable ones that you've had?
Honestly, that really, of all the recordings that I've made, I think that is at the peak. Yeah, I don't think I have anything that compares. It's kind of interesting. It's another kind of grizzly bear vocalization, but a scientist was out and recorded something with his iPhone while they were in the midst of processing a grizzly bear, meaning like collaring it, blood samples, that kind of stuff. And, obviously that wouldn't be a great situation for me to tag along in. Grizzly bears are still an endangered species. You don't want kind of ancillary personnel there. It's a very sensitive thing. And so that was kind of great too, but I mention it because don't forget, the personal recording devices for recording birdsong or other environmental sounds. So for those folks who are interested in getting started in nature recording, the phone can be a great tool. Having said that, it's important to note, don't get too close.
Right.
To wild animals. It's an awesome tool for, like I say, some soundscape stuff for birds, things, situations that are safe, but not great to get close to animals.
I agree. We are starting to run short on time, but before we go, Jennifer, let's steer people towards the website for Yellowstone National Park, where people can hear these podcasts on telemetry, where they can go ahead and hear your audio postcards and also find out about the radio station AM 1610 that airs in Yellowstone National Park.
Sure. So a couple places to go to find the podcasts and postcards. Obviously, you can do that through Yellowstone National Park's website, and that's at nps.gov/YELL. The telemetry podcast itself, you can find that specifically at go.nps.gov/telemetry, or you can find all of these things at the Acoustic Atlas website, and that is at acousticatlas.org.
Jennifer, love what you're doing. Please keep it up, and I hope that sooner or later you'll be able to share this with a wider audience. Thanks for sharing all this with us today on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Hey, thanks so much, John. I appreciated being here.
This is the time of year to get out and cook out. So make your next meal sizzle with Camp Chef, the brand known for quality outdoor cooking. From camp stoves to cast iron, from smokers to grills, Camp Chef will change the way you cook outdoors. To eat like a king on your next adventure, go to campchef.com or visit your local sporting goods store and get cooking. Whether you're serving breakfast in the backcountry or barbecue on the back patio, savor the simplicity with Camp Chef. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
Leupold has been building optics in Oregon since 1907, and Leupold binoculars bring excellent optical performance and modern styling to the serious outdoorsman. Whether you're a boater, birder, backpacker, or hunter, Leupold's state-of-the-art binocular lines are sure to fit your needs. Visit Leupold.com or your local Cabela's, Bi-Mart, or Sportsman's Warehouse to see the full line of Leupold optics.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
Want to earn a serious reward? You can, and all you need is a fishing rod. There's money to be made catching northern pike minnow. There's too many of them in the Columbia and Snake Rivers, and we'll pay you cash to catch them. Pike minnow eat our salmon and steelhead, and that's no good. The season starts May 1st, runs through September, and the more fish you catch, the more you earn. How much money can you make from this program? Well, last year, one angler earned a cool $100,000. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org. Go ahead, collect your reward.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after. Whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out in the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
We've got time for one more shot of Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
We've got a big upcoming event to tell you about. It's the Eastman's Trophy Deer Tour. If you want to see some incredible trophy mounts and learn the stories about these animals, you've got to check this out. Eastman's takes their trophies all over the United States with different trophies every year, and they are now coming to the Northwest. So, what are you going to see for 2016? How about this? An Arizona mule deer typical, #2 in the world, archery Pope and Young with a gross of 216, or a Colorado mule deer typical. His name, One-Eyed Buck, had a gross of 224, and there's many more. Don't miss this great tour. Come and see all 12 new trophies for 2016 on display at Sportsman's Warehouse on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, August 12th to the 14th in the Spokane store on Division Street, and in Missoula on August 19th through the 21st. While you're at the store, be sure to pick up what you need for your next hunting adventure. Who knows? Your next trophy just might make the Eastman's Trophy Deer Tour. And now it's time for your Sportsman's Warehouse Trivia Question of the Week, and we've got kind of a tough one for you. The Rocky Mountain elk is also known by a Native American name. It's a Shawnee Indian name for these majestic animals that translated means white rump, which would be an obvious reference to the white-colored rump on these animals. Do you know what this Native American name is for elk? If you do, go to our Facebook page. You'll find it at Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Look for the post we're going to have there and just give us your answer. Like our page while you're at it. Or, if you prefer, go to our website. You'll find that one at northwesternoutdoors.com. Go to the Contact Us page and let us know what's the Native American name for elk. If you guess right, you're entered for a chance to win the $25 gift card we give away every week from Sportsman's Warehouse. Another website to check is our sister show website. You'll find that one at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. We are currently airing on 24 stations in 5 states, and we are growing. If we're not on your station yet, contact your local station. Let them know you want to hear America Outdoors Radio along with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We'd love to give you 2 hours of programming wherever you live. The websites again for our 2 shows, northwesternoutdoors.com and americaoutdoorsradio.com. And by the way, you'll find podcasts of our most recent shows at both sites. Speaking of websites, got to tell you about my favorite internet radio station. You'll find it at RenoViolaOutdoors.com. It's the home of WRVO Radio, internet station dedicated to outdoors programming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and yes, we're on it too. The website again, renoviolaoutdoors.com. That's all for this week. We hope you enjoyed our award-winning broadcast. Hope you enjoyed that fascinating story by Bill Hanlon, who, by the way, is a real advocate for an organization I care for too, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Thanks as well to Anita Melton for a great day on the rails with JB Rail Riders, and a special thanks to Jennifer Jarrett, who's working out of Yellowstone National Park to record some incredible sounds there, sounds that you got to hear on this broadcast as well. Until next time, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.